Good evening, YouTube. HeirofCarthage here, back on Total War Warhammer, where I'm going to be recording you some online battles. If you're enjoying these, please make sure to subscribe. Got a little logo down there at the bottom right if you want to. Appreciate you watching, and like I said, hope you continue to enjoy. So yeah, I've got the vampires. I haven't played with them in a while, and I wanted to bring their army. So I got 2 fell bats, 4 skeleton spears, 2 cryptors, 2 graveguard, 2 blood knights. I have a white king who I forgot to put on a horse, so nice. I've got 1 banshee, and then I've got a master necromancer. Now you can see a flying death squad from Bretonnia immediately becoming visible and chasing my flying units. So this is why I did not bring any of my heroes flying or Vargeist or anything else, because Bretonnia will win that fight every day of the week against the vampires because of the king and the Pegasus Knights. So I'm going to use them to try and distract at the moment, and obviously I was worried that the Death Squad was going to make a quick run on my Master Necromancer, so I had Blood Knights ready to respond in case they did, because Blood Knights are going to be very, very good versus the large units. So, yep, I'm going to go ahead and move towards what's no doubt just going to be some pole arms and some archers. It's a pretty standard pick. You don't really have a lot of options when it comes to Bretonnia. So yeah, you can see I am successfully turning up some units here too with my bats. I spotted some Grail Knights hiding in the woods, and some more Grail Knights here. So Grail Knights are an interesting choice for Bretonnia. I'm not really sure that they're, I mean, they're not a bad unit, but they're not a bad pick versus the vampires because they can cause magical damage, which can be used versus ethereal units. So it's not all in all a bad pick, but probably wouldn't have been my first pick. My bats have nowhere else to flee but across the top of the Bretonnian army. And you can see my opponent is very, very keen on getting rid of these bats. And I'm not really sure why he's so worried about the bats, to be honest. As long as he could keep them away from his archers in the late game, he's honestly wasting energy chasing them right now. That's the only threat that the bats pose, is to get at his skirmishers, which, don't get me wrong, is important. But I mean, his units are scattered all over the battlefield, leaving the potential for me to do something good here. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but potential. Here he manages to catch that unit while I miss micro. I'm going to go ahead and push forward with my Graveguard and engage his men-at-arms. And I can't take my Cryptors into the men-at-arms and the bowmen. They'll get absolutely slaughtered. So that is going to be a problem. And I can't remove my Blood Knights from the presence of my Necromancer, or else I'm risking getting him killed. So that's kind of the conundrum I'm in. Bretonnia is actually, I still think, a pretty decent counter to the vampires. Here, some of my spearmen are going to take the charge. This is exactly what I want them for, so I can bring in a unit like Cryptors. Over here, my Graveguard takes the charge, unfortunately, and this is what Grail Knights are good at, which is inflicting massive damage to infantry. I'm going to have to keep a unit of Blood Knights around, because indeed he's gone down after my Necromancer. I'm going to put a unit of Blood Knights over here to kill his Grail Knights, and I'll be quite successful at destroying the Pegasus Knights and Grail Knights with the Blood Knights and the Cryptors. And over here, Leon Kur comes down again. I knew he was going to come after my my lord, so I'm able to quickly dispatch him with some Blood Knights, which is why you bring these guys. You put your Vampire Lord on the ground, and you bring the Blood Knights, and you can see my Vampire Lord's still going to die because I forgot to cast Invocation to Heck in time. So unfortunately, I'm still going to lose my Necromancer early on, which is a very painful blow to me. Grail Knight's being bogged down, but his archers doing some very nice work here versus the Cryptors. So nice job by the Bretonnian player, but over here he is losing his Pegasus and Grail Knights pretty steadily. Here I chased the king, and I was able to rout him off the battlefield, and I was like, sweet, I can kill the king, and I should have a pretty good chance at pulling off a victory here, because I've got my Blood Knights free. The downside is I lost the ability with my Necromancer. He is crumbling. And again, I had already cast Invocation to Heck right before he started crumbling. I couldn't cast it again, so he died. So I mismanaged my Necromancer, and then while that was happening, I mismanaged the king, who got back in the air. He's going to start replenishing, and I've got to get back here and take out his archers before they finish off my Blood Knights. They're doing a nice job. If this guy would have been on a horse, it would have been perfect, but I totally mispicked that. At least we dealt with the Grail Knights. We got that taken care of. Unfortunately, my Blood Knights now are going to have to face up against a Paladin plus all the archers. But I do have more Blood Knights free out here, and they're in pretty good shape. The Grail Knights over here are holding out against the spears because they don't have any other support. The Men-at-Arms with polearms came in and mopped up the other support I had. My Graveguard are losing in prolonged combat versus the Men-at-Arms because they're outnumbered and they were outmatched. But like, at least my White King's doing a little bit of damage right now, and my Blood Knights are causing some significant damage as well to the Paladin. But they are taking damage as well. These Blood Knights are now free, so I'm going to start trying to kill as many archers as I can. This is not looking great for me in terms of the fight. There's a unit of Grail Knights about to get free, and they picked up a substantial number of kills there, 92, quite a few of which were versus Graveguard. And with his bowman free, you can see he's able to focus fire. Even though I would normally kill his guys in melee, he's able to use the bowman to focus fire on my knights. And he's causing significant damage to my Blood Knights, which would otherwise easily mop up the large monsters and big bad units that he's throwing at me. So I'm going to go ahead and go after his archers again, because I just don't want these guys to kill my Blood Knights. And I was hoping to circle back on the king, but I turned the king loose and he's back up in the air replenishing. So that's kind of a frustrating conundrum for me, and to be honest, my opponent's kind of got the better of me here. With the mistakes I've made and the units that are left on the battlefield, he has me. You can see my Banshee in here, this nasty mistress of the night, going at it with these men-at-arms pole arms. Yeah, they're not exactly liking that poison magical dagger thing that she's got going on there. But yeah, so for me, as soon as my Blood Knights die, the battle's pretty much going to be over for me. I have this one unit out here. It's got a number of kills, mostly from archers. He's going to come tie me down with a Paladin, and this Paladin has a healing potion, so I have to kill it multiple times to get rid of it. Over here, his Paladin is tied down with Cryptors, which is fine. This fight in the center is definitely going to go in his favor. The king is wavering, and if I had my other unit of Blood Knights over here, I could get into him and finish him off. But without my Necromancer, without the Blood Knights being able to be replenished, it's kind of rough. And like I said, my White King is not on horseback, so he really can't get to the fight. He's just kind of running around the whole time like, hold on, boys, I'll get there. So yeah, huge mistake on my part. Yeah, and you can see Leon Kerr quickly picking up hit points. He just parks himself right over the combat to support his men. He's going to do well. The Banshee, she's done okay. I mean, she's held out in combat a long time. My Cryptors got wiped out, and then a healing potion saved the Paladin. So like I said, with these heroes, you have to kill them several times over to make them dead. And right here, I really needed to chase this Paladin and finish it off. But of course, I've got bowmen firing at me. I have a need to be in this fight over here, so I ignore the Paladin momentarily and watch what happens. Other Paladin, now completely healed after having been previously mauled by Cryptors, is going to be able to come in and slow me down. I'm going to ignore him and just go back for these archers, which are shooting at me. The other Paladin came back from routing, and all he's got to do is just pop a healing potion, and then he's going to be right back to new also. I honestly don't mind the healing potion in this game. My only problem is that you can bring 2 of them. I think it would be pretty nice if you could just bring 1, and that 1 healing potion costs more. Like if it costs 200 or 300 to put on your character, then it makes sense. They're going to be using up a substantial amount more funds, which may affect their ability to pick another unit. Now, I was using them too with my Banshee and my White King. Don't get me wrong. Everybody uses them. It's pretty much standard business right now. But I'm saying that I would rather see it where that's not the case. And, you know, again, 1 healing potion costs you more, so that it reduces the amount of characters with healing potions that can be fielded. My Blood Knights are alive, but they're not going to survive long. There's a Paladin chasing them and an Archer, and then Leon Kerr comes over. So nicely played by the Bretonnian player here. It's a good pick. I figured he was going to go for air dominance, and he did. And honestly, I had the right tools to deal with it. I didn't do it right. I don't think that means that my army choice was perfect. If I had it to do over again, I mean, when I think about it, Cryptors can be useful at helping to drag down cavalry, but I had plenty of spears, and I had Blood Knights. I had the tools to help deal with the cavalry. I think what I should have done is brought more bats, number 1, because they could have been helpful. Drop the Cryptors, and maybe get 1 more unit of Graveguards so that I could have given his pole arms a more difficult challenge. And of course, whenever I let one of my Graveguard units be charged by his Grail Knights, it was very bad for me. You can see that this Graveguard didn't do great, but it got a decent number of kills. This is the one that got plowed by Grail Knights, got completely ruined. This Blood Knight did extremely well, picked up 3 chevrons. This one picked up 2 chevrons. These guys can get kills and do a ton of damage. A couple of key mistakes here. Again, more bats could have been handy because I could have chased a routing Leon Kerr all the way off the field. So that was a huge problem. And whenever I routed the Paladins, I did not finish them off either. So this is the danger you have to beware of. Regenerating Lord, potions on these guys. they can replenish. Otherwise, I'm okay with the tools that I had here. The Banshee probably wasn't 100% necessary, so I mean, that's funds I could have spent on something else. But, you know, anyway, just a couple thoughts there. I do have another vampire battle for you, though, that I think you'll enjoy. Let's jump into it. This one was versus Greenskins. I brought a very similar army, but modified this one a little bit, I felt like, to help me against the Greenskins. I brought far more numbers, because the Greenskins are usually going to come in large numbers. I expected them to bring a giant or an Arachnarok, which they did, and I feel like I'm prepared to face that. I figured they could bring a Wyvern, but they did not. Their leader is out here on a War Boar. The War Boss on a War Boar is a very common pick now because of the healing potions. There's 3 Boar Biggins out here. The main line is a mix of Black Orcs and Boys, and they're supported by a Giant. And I don't remember, I think there may be 1 or 2 Biggins out. No, I think it's just Boys and Black Orcs. Yeah, it's just Boys and Black Orcs. And there's 1 Biggin guarding an Orc Shaman. This is a nice call. Yeah, so 3 Boar Boys. And I've got 1 Blood Knight this time. And then I've got 4 Graveguard up the center. My White King is actually on a horse this time. You're going to see me getting ready to spin up the Gaze of Nagash here. Because this is the vampire's best counter to the Giant. And let's see whether or not I hit him. Right in his ugly schnoz. So I killed the Giant a little over halfway with the Gaze of Nagash, which is important, like I said, for vampires. Otherwise, they have no way to counter it, other than Blood Knights. The Boar Boys are drawn in on my Skeleton Warriors for some reason. Maybe just wanting to do some quick damage. Doesn't really do a lot. This is kind of a waste. I'm going to chase them off with the Bats, and then I'm going to circle back out of there. The Giant, though, taking a lot of damage is going to be key, and then I'm going to tank up the rest of that damage with the Skeleton Warriors. So that's why I've got a meat shield line further out in front of my more expensive line. I'm actually protecting my Graveguard this time. And you can see his little pack over here. I've got Cryptors, Spearmen, Blood Knights, everything waiting. Since he doesn't have any flying units, my Lord should be safe. There comes the second Gaze of Nagash, and he's down to about 1/4 of his health, so this is perfect. The Giant has taken some of his damage and is now going to have to just try and fight his way through a cheap meat shield. And then I'm going to engage my reserves piecemeal. I'm going to make the Orc charge all my my meat shield units. And then I'm going to throw a whole bunch of hit points out here at his cavalry just to tie them down so they can't do any rear charges. So I'm throwing in the Bats, so there's no charge for the Biggins. They're going to get hit by my Skeleton Spears. He's going to bring a Black Orc into support, which is a great move. But here in the center, my Graveguard are now going to be able to charge into combat against his Black Orcs, against the Giant. And we're going to get lots of support here in the center. And I've even got the Banshee and the White King here as well. I'm going to send in the White King. Now, this time, I made another mistake with my heroes. I forgot to give them healing potions. So, there we go. I'm going to put a quick charge in here with my Blood Knights just to do some damage. He has a counter charge from the Biggins, so not bad. Not bad for him. My Biggins aren't going to get a whole lot of kills here. Or my Biggins. My Blood Knights are not going to get a lot of kills. I have more infantry coming in, though. This is not the fight my Blood Knights want to be in, so I'm going to pull them out. I've still got my Nec-romancer, who is building up some more magic to do some resurrection. And my Graveguard over here absolutely pummeling Orc Boys, and they're doing very well, actually, versus Black Orcs at the moment. And then here in the center, the Giant's gotten a lot of kills, fortunately mostly on Skeleton. Well, I say that. This Graveguard got hammered by this Black Orc because I got a mischarge on it. But the Giant is slowly dying. And here I'm able to smack the Orc Shaman down a little, keep him busy. So yeah, the Orc Shaman's going to take a beating. I'm going to get a very nice rear charge here into all the Orc Biggins and the Orc Boys. So we're going to rack up some kills here with the Blood Knights. I've got them under the Invocation and the Hex, so they're healing, and you can see that we cause substantial damage, routing the Orc Boys and also getting the Orc Biggins because they're terrified. And I think the Terrified might come from the White King, actually. So the Terror works there and routes several of the Orc units, so very fortunate for me. So this center is breaking up, and then over here, I'm just grinding the Orcs down. Like, so they're having to spend a ton of time killing cheap units, and it's causing them a lot of losses, like this Orc Boy Biggin over there. And once I see the Biggins, I'm going to push my Nec-romancer back around to the other side of this fight where he's not at risk of being charged by these guys. So this time I'm very aware of my Nec-romancer's weakness, and I'm keeping him safe. A little easier to keep him safe from the Orcs, to be honest. So there we go. So yeah, my Nec-romancer just going to stay free of combat. You can see the Orc Shaman caught and killed by a Graveguard, and then I'm going to put a nasty rear charge down on these Black Orcs. do a lot of damage to them, get them off the battlefield because they were doing pretty well in that fight. 103 kills. Yeah, Black Orcs are just extremely good infantry. Here comes a rear charge with the Boar Boys. I tried to kind of interrupt it a little bit with my my Banshee, but again, I don't have healing potions in either one of these units. Only 16 kills on the White King and 9 on the Banshee, so nothing substantial, but they did help get rid of the Giant. My Nec-romancer, though, is quite safe, and in the absence of a healing potion, I had to get a little bit creative here. I'm going to throw my Grave Guard into this fight because I want to tie down these Black Orcs. My Banshee's doing a great job of tanking some damage from the Black Orcs with the damage resistance. My Blood Knights are pushing off another Boar Boy Biggin. I'm going to move away, though, not to get tied up with the Black Orcs. And without the healing potion, we're going to some old-school vampire healing potion here, which is the replenish or the regen aura around the Necromancer. So I'm replenishing, albeit quite slowly, the White King, so I'm going to save him from dying here, which is going to be pretty critical. So using the Necromancer to maintain the stability of all the dark forces from beyond the grave. And I've got 51 kills with the Blood Knights, and some of those are Black Orcs, so some pretty quality kills right now. They're already up to a chevron. And let's watch these Orc boys, what happens when they meet with Blood Knights. Oh yeah. Blood Knights are an absolutely beautiful unit. They look great, they charge good, they're really, really good. I don't like to bring them in large numbers unless you feel like you really had to, because you can miss-micro them and they're very expensive. But when they're one at a time where you can kind of pay attention to them, you can use the Invocation of Nehek on them without having to overcast it. You can keep these guys alive through a lot and do a ton of damage with them, and I find them to be a very, very nice unit for the vampires to complement stuff like the Gaze of Nagash coming off of the Master Necromancer. Yeah, you can see here we are slowly healing up. Comes another rear charge from the Blood Knights, this time in a slightly more dense formation, but we're still going to cause significant damage. And we can easily sometimes terrify and rout the Orc units here. So we got rid of them. Some of the Greenskins came back over here, which is typical. Finally, now remember the Greenskins have been fighting here the whole time. They've lost most of a Black Orc. They've had to use a healing potion on their war boss, and they've lost most of their Boar Boys, and it allowed me to win the infantry fight in the center. And I'm able to keep my Blood Knights alive too, and these Black Orcs over here are hoping to get a chance to come back in and get some Wa, but the Wa is coming to them. Just watch this beautiful, beautiful Blood Knight charge. Lower the lances, boys. Oh yeah, sending those green scum right back to the lands where they belong. I guess it's the land of the dead. I don't know. Can you make an undead orc? Now here his Boar Boys are going to get a rather nice charge downhill. It's into my Grave Guard though, and I'm using them as a meat shield. I'm going to come in with more Grave Guard. I just want to tie down his cavalry so that they can't be used effectively. And then I'm going to bring the Blood Knights in to just cause a little bit of damage. It's through the back of my own men, but again, I just want to speed these Boar Boys in routing. And so I'm just using the Blood Knights to support my infantry here. His War Boss was in there too, so I did a little bit of damage to him. I'm going to pull back with the Blood Knights, and I'm going to spin up a Invocation into Heck. You can see we're back up to 700 hit points on the White King, so he's going to be viable again. So here comes the Invocation, and I see a Boar Boy unit coming back into the battle, and they're going to be a ripe target for my Blood Knights, who will absolutely slaughter them on the charge and in prolonged melee. Boar Boys are, or Boar Boy Biggins are a nice cavalry unit for the price. They're not great, but they are going to pale in comparison to Blood Knights, but they are almost half the cost. But yeah, still you can see the Blood Knight's going to shred through them without much issue. The War Boss is tempted to come after my Necromancer, who slips away. We tie him down with the Banshee and the White King, and the White King is now going to die, but I'm able to get in here, and even though he's using the Potion of Toughness and a lot of other things, I'm able to do so much damage to the Orc War Boss that he's going to rout regardless of the healing potion. So sometimes the two healing potions can be a double or two-sided sword. Sometimes it's better to bring the Potion of Foolhardiness and use it to keep your character from routing, while you use the other healing potion to keep them in the game. That's the challenge with the Orc War Boss. You can get the healing potions for him, but he does tend to rout fairly easy for a hero character. Now, you can see here, though, he killed a ton of my cheap infantry, and that's not surprising when he has the healing potion. A couple of the Black Orcs, or all of the Black Orcs, really doing quite well. Again, not surprising. They're better than any of the infantry I fielded. There you can see the Grave Guard, obviously, where they got matched up against boys or whatever it is. They're going to absolutely crunch them. We ended up with 2 chevrons on the Blood Knights, so pretty nice performance there. The Cryptors really just kind of help tank out a bunch of damage versus the Borbiggins. And the Borbiggins, a couple of them did pretty decent, but again, a lot of those units out there were zombies, skeleton spears. I'm purposefully throwing cheap meat shield hit points out there to keep his flank busy while I was able to finish off the center. And this is the key here. This giant got 77 kills. Some of them were on Graveguard, but you'll notice he didn't pick up a Chevron. It was mostly on skeletons, and that was the whole reason for bringing the skeletons, was so that you could slow down the charge of something like an Ragnarok or a giant. Worked out great this time. How do you all like to play the vampires? What do you like about what I did? What do you not like? And what are your favorite strategies with the vampires? What lord do you like? Just kind of tell me a little bit about your builds. I actually kind of like how the vampires balance in at the moment. I felt like they were pretty OP in previous patches, and they are still pretty strong. But I don't see them just like dominating the scene in multiplayer, and it's mostly because any faction can kind of spam hero units with potions now, which definitely helps against the vampires, but because they can't character snipe quite so easy. But still, I still feel the vampires are potent. I still think they're fun to play with. Like I said, tell me what you think. Enjoy it in the comments. HeirofCarthage signing out.